welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. Like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am so excited. Quinn XCII back with a brand new album called The People's Champ, and we've got him here. Hello, sir.
Hey man, how are you? I'm praying that, like we said, my phone does not collapse on the paper cups that is holding up in this hotel room in Pennsylvania that I'm in.
It's the necessity. That's right.
Yes.
What we use. Yeah. Man, it's good to see you. You know, we were originally supposed to, I think, meet for the first time over the summer. You played a festival that you were here in Louisville at Forecastle, and of course the travel arrangements didn't quite work out that day.
A little crazy. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I'm glad we got you here, and even that. I mean, Louisville. I mean, you're from right up. I say right up the road. It's quite a few miles up the road originally, but you consider yourself a Midwest kid, right?
Totally. Yeah, Detroit. I mean, Michigan. It's definitely. I still very much consider myself a Midwest. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll ever not consider myself a Midwest person. I've lived in LA for like 8 years now, but people still like can tell I'm from the Midwest. I don't know what it is. Like my parents were in town the other day and they were saying hi to everybody on the sidewalk, and I was like, Mom, this is not what people do out here. And I'll do that sometimes too. And I was with a friend the other day, like, yeah, you don't. That's a very Midwest thing I've just picked up on that you do. And yeah, so whether I don't even think I could choose to not be Midwest. It's very ingrained in my DNA at this point.
It's still in there. I get that. Yeah. I get that anytime I travel. It's always because, you know, what is the idea of the Midwest, I think, is so expansive and almost confusing. Like Louisville has an identity problem itself. Like Kentucky might be the South, I
was going to say, like, do you consider it the Midwest? What do you...
It's interesting. It's almost like if Louisville is the Midwest, but Kentucky is the South. Sort of. Personally, it's more of like when you hear the St. Louis is the gateway to the West. I just think of Louisville as the gateway to the South, but that doesn't mean it's the South. Like there's a lot of Southern things here, and I have a lot of friends who will argue me this point, by the way. Yeah, but it's weird little thing. But that's, I guess, what I'm getting to is, but in another sense, Louisville seems so far away from Detroit to be considered the same thing.
It does. It really does. I know. I've always thought about that, because when I go to Kentucky, I'm always like, this feels like we're in the South, like especially Louisville. But hey, man, whatever. We're very inviting. Oh, there it is. Yeah, she was vertical. I'm so sorry.
Vertical it is. You look good. Okay. It's fine. Yeah, we'll go over there.
Okay.
That was nice. Right there at the end of the comment too.
Yeah.
So with all that, you're back with the brand new record, as I mentioned, The People's Champ, and I love the title, and especially, you know, as we talk about that, because I think you mentioned this online a bit, maybe some other interviews, but the idea of the People's Champ and this Midwest thing, like there's still this sense, I guess, that you have that you consider yourself the underdog. Is that where all this is coming from?
It is, yeah. I mean, the title kind of has a double meaning. I mean, I initially, The People's Champ was inspired by the idea that I feel like I'm still sort of fighting for my stripes, and I've been doing this is like my 5th album, and I still feel like people don't know who I am, and that's okay. That's totally fine. I almost embrace that role now of just sort of flying under the radar, and it kind of takes the expectations off of things. So for the sake of my own sanity, it kind of helps. But as I was making the album and you know, months into finishing it, I realized that like The People's Champ really has a much deeper meaning to it. And it's really about being yourself and just embracing your authentic self. And for me, I was trying to make an album that didn't have too much thought behind it. I know it's a weird way to tee up an album, but I didn't want to like sit down the goal was not to make music this year with like a linear idea and have this big mind-blowing concept. And that's great when albums can do that. But for me, I just wanted to make music and stay present and get out of my own head and just do it as like therapy, essentially. And through that, I realized that this, yeah, the album that I was trying to make was really just an album to celebrate being that and being yourself and owning your authentic nature, whether that means one day you're depressed and or you're excited, or you have a bit of anxiety, or there's some bills you have to pay, or you need to call your parents back and you feel guilty about it. Like, however, whatever life throws at you, I feel like I've learned that our natural self is the only thing that gets us through each experience, and it's the one thing that doesn't come in and out of experience, and it's the one thing that really holds experience. And so yeah, I realized that everyone has that, and we overlook that so much, and everyone is their own people's champ. So it's really just like it's really a message to fans and to everyone that, like, you don't have to look outward for something that you don't already have. And I think we're just kind of told in society that we have to become rather than just be. And it's really an album about just being and just celebrating yourself, whatever form or size or shape that is. And just accepting yourself and being there for yourself. So it's definitely a self-acceptance, self-love album, but there also is a sprinkle of being the underdog in there too. So there's a double meaning.
Well, so much of self-acceptance, I mean, that tends to come along with age too. You turn 30, a round number for if it's meaningful to you or not during all of this, but that is helpful. The more, the older you get, the more comfortable you get in your skin for a lot of people. Does turning 30 play a part in this? Do you find that finds a direct influence beyond maybe what we're already talking about?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's just with age, and I've been married now for like 3 years, and those certain like adulting milestones that I think we all eventually go through, and that have happened to me recently. I think with that comes a bit of wisdom, I would say, and you get a little smarter, and you learn a few tricks that you probably didn't know when you were younger, and your perspective changes. So yeah, I would say definitely with age comes this newfound sort of outlook on life, and I'm hoping it's not the end. I'm hoping I gain insight the older I get, but yeah, I would say just the older I get and the more life experience I go through, I've realized that I have a lot of gratitude for what I have, and I just realized that I was so I don't know, I was tired of looking outward for things and trying to sort of increase the image of like who Quinn is, and trying to market myself always as like someone you need to root for, and that gets a bit exhausting. And ironically, I feel like the less I try to do those things, it actually works more in my favor, and my true self sort of shines brighter. So yeah, I just think trying to get out of my own way a bit has been a big exercise these last few years. And yeah, like you said, 30, it's a round number, probably sounds good, and I feel like 30 comes with some stereotypes, but I would say yeah, it's I've gotten a bit wiser because of getting older. But who knows, maybe I'll become an idiot next year and I'll forget it. But we'll see.
We'll always be idiots. That's the thing. Remember, we'll always be idiots.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing you talk about that stuff, and then thinking about some of the lyrics in here too. Like there's a song Black Porsche, which if I understand it right, like there's like a bit of dealing with fame in there. I mean, you're saying sometimes I hate it, and I'm sort of thinking about that in the lens of what we're talking about here with age too, because the popularity thing that you're talking about, and for all the accolades that you have, but maybe not the name recognition, like where does that all collide on that song?
Yeah, it's really more about, honestly, myself, and how I kind of have a bit of imposter syndrome. And I feel like I've always been bad at embracing the things that come to me in life, and whether those are material things or things that like events that I get to be a part of, or milestones, or streaming numbers, or a paycheck, whatever the case is. I feel like I've always been bad at just accepting them as like, oh yeah, I deserve that, I worked hard. I've always felt that it's not just me that should be taking credit for the things that I get. I feel like I was saying earlier, like when you write a song, like it's kind of like you're harnessing an idea from the sky, and you have to pull it down on a rope and tighten it and just hold on to it, and then just run with it, and obviously like put the work in and make it personal and make it something that people can digest. But that initial spark or whatever that squiggle in the sky is, that's not ours as creators. And I think I know that on a pretty deep level now, and so I find it hard for me to sometimes fully take responsibility for the things that happen to me. And so that song really is about just coping with that. And it really, I don't want it to come across as like a poor me. I drove a Porsche and I have, like, and maybe people could perceive it that way. But yeah, it's really just a song about, it's about material things. It's about how my family lives back in Michigan still and wants me to move home, and how sometimes I don't feel like LA is my home. And it's a lot of different things. It's a very stream of conscious type of song and just getting shit off my chest. But yeah, more about just me having imposter syndrome and feeling like, yeah, I think that's a deeper rooted thing that I might need to go to therapy for. But it's music is definitely therapy, and that was definitely a song that helped a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, when one of my favorite tracks on here, and this is the last thing I'll play with the age thing on, but FOMO, a very funny song, extremely catchy song. One of the things that absolutely did disappear in my 30s. I got to the point where I was like, I don't care what you're doing. I don't.
Yeah. No, what's funny, man? This is probably the last time I'll ever say I have FOMO. You're right, and like publicly, because you're right. I could not care less if you are doing something on the weekend, and I'd rather just be on the sofa watching TV and playing with my dog and with my wife. Like I hear you. Yeah. We got to stick together.
That's such a great song, and so many on here. I mean, Good Either Way. I know you've talked about a little bit like Jack Johnson in the past, and he's got that little vibe to me because I love Jack Johnson. I've had him on the show a lot of times. I mean, but that what I'm getting to here is really about the sound. That song and so many other songs. I mean, what I love about what you're doing, especially what you're doing right now, is I mean, so much of this album is still rooted in real stuff. I mean, it's real guitar, it's upright bass that I'm hearing, it's those horns. Like, how much of that plays a part on this record of how you wanted it to sound, if you had a vision at all?
Yeah, I'm really happy you said that, because I think I've done my fair share of the shiny pop songs in the past with electronic, like just technology is at a point these days for producers where we really can make whatever sound we want, and I think we sometimes forget about the old guitar or the piano or the trumpet, like you said. So I wanted to, while I didn't have an idea conceptually for this album of what it should have been, sonically, I definitely wanted to make music that had real instruments, really just that those were sort of the backbone of each song. And yeah, so I'm really happy that you noted that, because I want people to recognize the sort of instrumentation involved in everything. And yeah, I got to work with some amazing producers and some players on this album that have really brought my ideas to life. And I just think, I've always said, like, you really, in my opinion, I think for a good song, you just need, a melody, lyrics, and maybe one instrument, whether that's a piano or a guitar. Like, you don't need much more than that. And if you have that, then that's all you really need. And then you can add the toppings and the sprinkles on top of the shiny synths and all that crap. But I kind of wanted to go back to that old school mindset of like, let's just make it as simple as possible. And most of these songs have like 3 to 4 tracks on them. It's not like massive things we had to stem out and get mixed. It was like vocals, keys, trumpet, and drums. And I think that's sometimes the best music, just easy, digestible stuff that, cuts right to the chase and doesn't have to be this elaborate whole thing. And I don't know. That's just me though. But yeah, thanks for saying that. It's a pretty simple production album, but still is creative and sounds cool. And we found ways to make it unique with the minimal things that we used.
Absolutely. And I don't want to come off sounding like the old guy, and I don't care if I really do, but but there's something about having those real instruments there. It gives it, to me at least, that warmer feel. It gives me something to grab onto, and it's In my brain, I just started thinking I was relating it to oatmeal because it sticks with you so much longer. And I don't know if that's the proper way to compliment you, but that's a compliment.
That is exactly how I would like to be described, as oatmeal. I love that. Yeah. No, I think it's funny because the other day I was just talking with Drew from the Chainsmokers, who, you know, obviously huge, massive success, and they were playing a song for me, and the singer on the song, I was like, why does that voice, that vocal sound so warm and like nostalgic? And they're like, yeah, we didn't put any the singer who was singing on it, he didn't want any type of like tuning or adjust or mixing or whatever. It's just his raw vocal. And I think I say that because I think we forget that, like, we don't need to, I think we're accustomed now as creators and musicians to want to make our music and our art feel the most shiny and appealing and sexy and like, but the stuff that we're ironically trying to make is the stuff that we grew up on. And the stuff that we grew up on was like, it didn't have all those glitz and glamour techniques. It was just like raw to the point. And it's no wonder we always scratch our heads like, why doesn't it not sound like the way it did back in the 90s or whatever, or the early 2000s? And it's because that stuff was pretty simple. And I think that was sort of a way I wanted to look at this album, was just like not doing too much craziness on it and just keeping it pretty raw in its basic form. So
Back
thanks.
when back when pop songs had guitar solos. Not that they need guitar solos still, but that was kind of one of the things that got left in the past anyway, was even just moments of instrumental guitar, which you do get on here.
Guitar solos and bridges right. Got dust. Yeah. So I'm trying to bring too. There's a couple bridges on this album.
Well, that was because you're also very good when you talk about simplicity. And part of it is probably the era, but conciseness, like the 2-minute 30 song. Like, we started there back in the 50s and 60s, and then everything got longer, and it's sort of gone shorter in the, I'll just call it the TikTok days or whatever. But you know, feeling like, well, for you, is there anything in the vault? Like, do you have the 10-minute jam in there that's gonna happen at some points?
My like Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, I want that. I don't have that in the vault, but I would love to put out just like a 3-song album, but each song is like 20 minutes long, you know? I've seen bands do that. I think it's genius. I don't think my clientele has the brain power for that, but nor do I don't think I even have the brain power to make something like that. But I think it would be cool just to have like you said, like a 10-minute just jam session, or just me spitballing nonsense on a track. Yeah, that's when people can pull that off, though, it's really special. I don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe that's another age thing. Maybe 30 is not the time for me to do that. Maybe when I'm 40 and I'm just not crazy, I'll do that. Yeah.
So you do your Steely Dan record at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll quickly bring up the collaborations on here too. Of course, I mentioned when you were supposed to come to Louisville, you know, we did have Chelsea in the room, and it's always great having her. And here you are. I'm going to ask the question's been asked a million times, but you all are like the Kenny and Dolly. You're like the Lee and Nancy Sinatra. Like, what is so special about your collaboration that makes it continue?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I mean I do know a little bit why. I would say like our we have very similar taste in music. I would say our writing style is similar. The way we like are drawn to certain melodies, I think, is very similar. Our voices are even like, I know she has a much higher voice than me and like a more delicate voice, but I maybe wouldn't say they're similar. They just really complement each other really well. I think I think we're both just cut from the same cloth is probably the best way I could just describe it. And you know, you don't find that very often in collaborators, especially different vocalists. And once you do, I just knew the first time that we worked together, I was like, I want to make sure we always do something every year. And if even that sounded like a lot, but I think that we've made a song together every year now that we've been making music. And like, yeah, and more importantly, she's just an amazing friend, and I consider her family. And like, again, you just don't get those types of relationships very often in music, and I think once you do, it's important to hold on to them. So yeah, I mean, not just a good friend, but it's even cooler that she's an amazing artist that we work together very well, and I can use her in ways for my records, and vice versa. I can hop on things for her albums, and it's great. It's really special. And yeah, she's a great person.
Yeah. And then beyond that, I mean, who we got here? Big Sean, Adrian Coda, AJR. I loved seeing that you were working with it. Speaking of seeming like you were all cut from the same cloth in a way, like what were you looking for in your collaborators for this album?
It's so funny, man. I didn't even have, it wasn't like I had these four, I think it's four artists on the album or collaborating with. It's not like I had like these guys in mind. I was sending cold calls out to everybody. It was more like I had songs and naturally they came about, and I was like, who would sound great on this? And then I had a few people in mind, and then life took its course and somehow landed on these guys. And in the case of the AJR song though, like they actually wrote that song. It was supposed to be on their last record. It didn't make it. And they sent it to me and they're like, hey, do you want to, sing some verses on here? And maybe we make it our first collab. And because we both know that our fans are very similar. We were supposed to go on tour actually before the pandemic, and it never happened. And so we've always been kind of bummed that we never, had this sort of like these paths crossed. And we thought this was a cool moment to do something together finally. And so, yeah, they sent me the song. I just laid my verses down and we put it. It's now it's going to be on the album. It's I think something fans will really enjoy. And yeah, so again, your question though, like how did I come up with these collaborations? It wasn't too methodical. It was just like I had something and I thought Big Sean would sound cool on the song, and my business manager actually got us in touch because he reps Big Sean too, and like really weird things. And Adrian Coda, who's an amazing Latin artist who lives down the street from me, like I saw him one day and asked him if he wanted to get on the song, and just weird life does that sometimes, and you meet people, and it's cool though. Everything came together very naturally.
When it works, it works. It certainly works, son. It's dude, seriously, The People's Champ is such a great record. I don't mind saying it. It's my favorite thing that you've done so far, and I've been a fan before this. So congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.